plus Alexis' sister to figure out exactly when I'll be marking in my calendar. All right, here we go. We got to start this morning. Celtics and Wizards. Winner moving on to face those Nets in round one. The thought to be dead in the water Boston Celtics were anything but that last night. If only somebody could have predicted that. They were going up against a red-hot Wizards team.
You did it, Jenna.
Jason Tatum, even hotter. A performance for the ages, 50 points out of Tatum. A perfect 17 of 17 from the line out of Tatum. And the win thanks to Jason Tatum. Here he is after the big win.
I don't really get caught up in, those who think I am a superstar and those that don't. What does that really mean? I know that my teammates, I've earned their respect. I've earned the respect of the guys that I play against and the coaches. And, I believe myself, and that's all that matters.
All right, big win for the Boston Celtics as they now get ready to face the Nets. But let's stay here for a second, talk about Jason Tatum. Nick, what'd you make of his big 50-point game last night?
Oh, it's a great moment for him, and it's a validating moment for him. Listen, Jason Tatum burst onto really the national stage, not so much when he was the third pick of the draft, but in the playoffs in 2018 when the undermanned Celtics took LeBron and the Cavs to 7 games. You're like, oh, Tatum could be one of the next stars of the league. And last year in the playoffs, when they got to the conference finals, he was clearly their best player, but he'd never had a moment quite like this one. He had 5 career playoff 30-point games, 0 career playoff games with more than 35 or with at least 35. And while I understand this does not technically count as a playoff game, it was playoff stakes, and he was excellent. So, wild. For Tatum, this is a great moment and a career benchmark. For the Celtics and their and most notably their manager, I kind of feel like the next couple weeks would have been better for them if Tatum would have played poorly last night and saved this outburst for tomorrow, so they'd be taking on the Sixers instead of the Nets, because even their head coach, Danny Ainge, their head coach, Brad Stevens, came out and was like, hey, can we beat the Nets? Probably not. Like, we're going to have to play perfect, and they're really good. And the history with the Nets and the history with the trade and the history with Kyrie and all of that, we're going to get those stories day after day. So it's great for Tatum. But if I'm, Benny from Worcester, I don't think I'm very happy over the next couple because of what this great game is going to make me experience.
Yeah, I think the Nets Celtics is going to be a referendum on Danny Ainge's career as a GM, Jenna. I'm sorry. I still think he should follow you on all social platforms, regardless if the Celtics win one game or get swept. Nick, I'm going to throw it back to you. And you were very diplomatic in giving Jason Tatum a handful of flowers, not the full bouquet. But some would think that he's talking directly to you, since you lead the brigade of Jason Tatum is not quite a superstar. It's interesting because Tatum's like, I don't even know what that really means. Like, well, I know what it means. It's kind of just like Hollywood. Can I put your picture on a poster and sell tickets? AKA, can we win this movie with just you as the star? So if you have Tom Cruise, you can put him in anything, and that movie will do a certain amount of numbers. It's similar to the NBA. Can you ride a singular guy and a singular performance to a championship? And I think what Jason Tatum is saying from a performance like last night is like, yeah, you can. I don't know if you're willing to go there yet, but I feel it would be remiss if we didn't ask you, has Jason Tatum earned his superstar credits with last night's performance?
See, you box me in and you make me be mean this early in the morning after the guy's career best game.
No.
Listen, I did the list this morning, and even the most adamant, diehard Celtic fans, none of them would consider Tatum better than the following players. Let me give them to you quickly, okay? LeBron, Durant, Embiid, Giannis, Luka. There's 5. Steph, Harden, Dame, Kawhi, Jokic, AD. That's 11. So right there's 11 guys unanimously better than him. I think Kyrie, Chris Paul, and Jimmy Butler are also there. So now we're at 14. Then there's the group of Zion, Paul George, Bradley Beal, Julius Randle, Russ, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, and the big defensive centers, Bam and Rudy Gobert, plus Jason Tatum. That's 24 guys. So at absolute best, he's 15th. At absolute worst, he's 24th. I think he's probably somewhere around, right. What's going to happen today, LeVar, is the same thing that happens with quarterbacks in the NFL. People are like, hey, that's top 5 quarterback. It's a top 5 quarterback. And it's like, hey, give me your list of top 5 quarterbacks. And they will list 9 people. Everyone's going to want to say Jason Tatum is a top 10 player, even though there's 11 guys, I would argue 14 guys, that we all think are better than him. So is it a league with 20 superstars? No. So is Jason Tatum a star, LeVar? Yes. Is he a superstar? Not yet. And I think when you go through the actual names, I think everyone knows that.
I'm going to go at your, and I believe that the reasoning is sound, Nick. I really do. But when I think about superstar, I don't think about all pro. I think about, do people know who you are? If Jason Tatum was to go out in downtown Boston, would people know who he is? Would people want to get pictures with him? Would people want to shake his hand and ask him how the season is going? And I love the Celtics. If he went somewhere in America, if he went somewhere else overseas, would people recognize Jason Tatum? And the answer is unequivocally, yes, they would. So by your standard, you're right. If we're looking at superstars as in best player, as in highest rated player, to me, I look at that as all league, all pro honors. So to me, there are superstars that aren't necessarily considered to be the best. So I look at Jason Tatum and I look at this performance. I thought it was a signature moment as well, Nick. I also look at it as Jason Tatum is also going to be measured and weighed differently because he's playing for the Boston Celtics. I don't want to say people like you, Nick, because that sounds horrible. But when someone looks at what Jason Tatum's body of work is and says, he's a star, but he's not a bona fide superstar, I would tend to say he's had a ton of success in the playoffs. Yeah. He's come very close to being in the finals at a very, very young age. So to me, I measure superstar celebrities as somebody that is recognizable to people that aren't necessarily within that category. People know who Jason Tatum is, and to me, that says he is a superstar.
And that's a totally fair way to do it. I might be doing it in a little more nerdy, analytical fashion. But to kind of put a pin on this, Wilds, to what you said about, let's say Nick's a hater, Nick's wrong, Jason Tatum is a superstar. We also know Jaylen Brown is an all-star. Now, I know they didn't have Jaylen last week of the season, didn't have him last night. But the reason this is such a tough spot for Ainge is because the Celtics are now the 7 seed with a superstar, allegedly, and an all-star. You look at the 3 teams ahead of them. You look at Atlanta. Atlanta does not, they have Trae Young as their best guy. They don't have a superstar, and they don't have any other all-stars. You look at the Knicks. Julius Randle is their best guy. He is trying to become a superstar. They have no other all-stars. You look at Miami. Miami, I think Jimmy Butler's, right on line with Tatum, as I mentioned, and then they have Bam. But why were those teams all 40-plus wins? And why were the Celtics with Tatum and Brown for the majority of the season, why did they finish at 500? Because of the rest of the roster has been put together terribly. So in an odd way, you know who wants to argue that Nick's right about Tatum is Danny Ainge. Because if he is a superstar, then why the hell were you guys 500 in the play-in game? Like, that's a fair question.